writing the paper about whether or not the words under God should be removed from the pledge. And that's the format. The way that you're going to be writing the under God paper is the same format I want you to write should you choose to do the written paper option for the paper which is due on the 20th. Okay, so hopefully you'll find that this method of writing makes sense. I am the first one to admit that this is not the only way to write a paper, but it is a way of writing a paper. And I happen to be a fan of this way of writing because it's logical. I like logic. So anyway, okay. Let's just look at a few things about American family. Take a look at this interesting map. Okay. And what conclusion can you reach about the U.S.?
It's the highest divorce rate.
High divorce rate. Okay, very good. How'd you figure that out?
I looked at the color on the side and I looked at the United States.
Very good. So first, you look at the key and you see that the brownie parts, no one loves the brownie parts, is greater than or equal to 60%. And then you'll look and you'll see that the U.S. is that color, or maybe it's more this color, but it's pretty darn high.
Iberia is.
Spain is pretty high. Portugal, yeah. Okay, but we're up there.
They're polygamists.
Really?
Well, I don't know, but they think about their culture.
Okay. Lowest divorce rate. Can someone in here, now again, this involves a multiple step process, but can someone in here name a country that has an extremely low divorce rate? Syria. Very good. How'd you do that?
How do you know that?
Just take us through your steps that you did.
I looked at the lightest color, and then I looked at the countries on there, and I said the one in the middle.
Isn't the lowest one gray?
Except that's no data.
No data. Okay, very good. So you went one up, and you saw the whitish, and then you found a whitish country, and you happen to know geographically that that's Syria. Very good. Anyone else? Different country? Do you know what country that is?
Right next to
It's next to Egypt. Very good. That's what they call themselves.
Liberia.
That's Liberia. Yes. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you'll notice the white and then kind of the yellow and then sort of the orange, if you made a circle around this area called the Middle East, it's rather low divorce rate. Whereas we have in the West,
their wives aren't allowed to leave.
let's reach a conclusion here in a minute. Where in the West, we seem to have a higher divorce rate, right? Europe, higher divorce rate. Middle East, low divorce rate. Africa, apparently can I make this conclusion? There's no divorce in Africa, in most of Africa?
Nobody exists.
I can't make that conclusion. So we have to be careful about reading into this. I didn't hear what you happened to say, but you said something. That's because all their wives are.
No,
and
I
I'm
said-
kind of glad I probably
No, I said
didn't
it's
hear
because
what
they're
you
not
said.
allowed to leave their wives.
That's
Or their
That's
wives
probably
aren't,
true.
Wives aren't allowed to leave them.
in some parts. Okay. So
They are.
I want you to think about this thing. Is this bad?
Yes.
Is this good?
There's.
There's where we have to be careful. Anyone want to take this on and expound a little bit? Go ahead.
Well, with divorce, it's not that bad because you can be in an abusive home or it doesn't work out anymore and not being divorced.
Okay, good. There are multiple ways of looking at it. You happen to live in a society where you are free to make decisions like divorce. And if you're in a sucky relationship, why wouldn't you get divorced? Don't call home and say, Mom, Dad, you should really get divorced. Mr. Fowler says. I didn't say that, okay? But there are some situations where divorce is the correct option. Where abusive situations happen, you live in a country where it doesn't matter what gender you are, you can be the one that initiates the separation of termination of your marriage, right? You live in a free society. That is not true in many parts of the world. You were correct, where you're the wrong gender to initiate the divorce proceedings. Sorry. So I know this is weird, but you probably have never thought about this right that you have, but you have the right to get a divorce. That's a right that you have. Now, you're not going to find that in the Constitution. It's not in the Bill of Rights, but you do. You have that right, whereas it's not true in other parts of the world. So we have to be careful about concluding, wow, that's terrible. And here's something else that we have to be careful about. So again, look at the map, and let's conclude that the U.S. is the brownie one, right? 50 to 59. All right, I'm going to make a statement, and I want you to raise your hand if you agree with the statement according to this, okay? Half or more of all marriages in the U.S. end in divorce.
Ooh. I mean, like,
Now let's try this statement. I'm not going to tell you the answer. Let's try this statement, okay? As a result of the first statement, which by the way is true, that's correct. Half or more of all marriages in the U.S. end up in a divorce. That's true. All right, let's try this one. Half of married people or more in the U.S. get a divorce. Come on now, raise your hand if you think that's right.
that's the same.
That's the same sentence.
Is it?
just in a different-
Is it? Half of married people or more, Jack's trying to figure this one out, end up in a divorce. Raise your hand if you think, yep, that's the same as the sentence before.
It's not the
Is
same.
it?
It's not the
All right, let's
same.
try this little experiment, right? All right, everyone, you're married. Okay, there's 30 of you in here. Let's just say there's 30 of you. You are now married. The score is now 30-0, married team over divorced team. Okay? 30-0. And now these two rows get a divorce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The score is now 30 marriages, and then there were 8 divorces. Now you get remarried. The score is now 38-8. And now you get divorced again. And now the score is now 38-16. And now you get married again. The score is now 46-16. And now you get divorced again. The score is now 46-22. And if you keep going
24, my
on
God.
that process,
Water.
half, did I do bad math?
He said 22.
Damn it. If you keep going, eventually the divorce rate will be over 50%, but most of you stay married.
Does everybody have that aunt that's on like their 5th marriage?
Exactly. Exactly. This is deceiving in multiple ways. The first way it's deceiving is the conclusion that, man, that's bad. They're good. And the second conclusion is that means most Americans get a divorce. No, it doesn't. Aunt Mary. Yeah, she's on her 5th. So this freedom of getting a divorce allows some people to take it to the extreme. It's just like any right? You have the freedom of speech. You do. You have the freedom of speech. Does that mean you can open that door and as loudly as you can yell fire? And then when they pull the fire alarm and then they pull you aside and say, why'd you do that? And you say, freedom of speech, First Amendment. No, that is not freedom of speech. You do not have the right to go to the principal's office and say, yeah, Mr. Potter was selling drugs again. First of all, you didn't see anything. And second of all, you're lying. Lying is not freedom of speech, but there are some people that take to extreme. You have the Second Amendment right to say, what is your Second Amendment right? The right to bear arms. So, of course, I have my own nuclear missile. Right? And the government and the rest of you say, you can't. Why not? Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. A nuclear missile is an arm.
That's extreme.
Yeah, it's extreme. Your rights are not without limit. You have the right to divorce. Some people take it to the extreme. Aunt Mary. Okay, that's it. Most people who do get divorced do remarry. It's sort of an interesting thing. In America,
Imagine spending all that money and then getting a divorce, and then spending even more money to get.
we'll go to Vegas, man.
But what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So
And one thing to note here is that divorce, I mean, in the 1950s and before, that was taboo. That was something you didn't talk about. Whereas today, I don't want to say it's celebrated, but it's nothing to be ashamed of, especially, by the way, for you. If you happen to live in a family where mom and dad got a divorce, it's not your fault. And by the way, even using the word fault is misleading. It's as if this is something that's bad. Maybe your mom and dad just decided this ain't working. Okay, it's just reality. So in America, it is more and more seen as the norm, not anything to be embarrassed about. It happens, right? My brother got a divorce, right? It happens. And that divorce of my brother, that was the best thing they could have done. They were awful. I knew they were in trouble on his wedding day. So on his wedding day, he calls in me and my other brother, from a family of 5 boys, and asks us this question: am I making a mistake? And of course, in my head, I'm like, yep. Because asking that question leads me to that conclusion. You're making a big mistake. But what did I say? No. Okay. Okay, some other things that we're going to sort of look, and this is the trends that are in existence. If you read the newspaper or pay attention to social media, you are probably of the conclusion that and it's not going to be much longer. We're all going to be dead. Okay, the world is heading towards disaster. The glaciers are going to melt, and there are hurricanes, and oh my God, and there's wars everywhere. Blah blah blah. My God, it won't be much longer. And I'm here to show you that it's never been better to be alive. And I've got a certain number of barometers to display that. Okay, just think about several hundred years ago versus now. How about this idea of extreme poverty? 1,000 years ago, all of you in this room lived better than the wealthiest person did 1,000 years ago. All of you have these things called toilets that take the poo away. The wealthiest person 1,000 years ago took a dump on the second level of his castle by walking on a bridge inside the castle, and then there's a beam of wood, and you held onto the wood, and then you squatted, and then your doo-doo went down to the bottom floor where there was hay, and there were people whose job it was to shovel the doo-doo out, and that was seen as nice. Wow, you take a dump like that, nice.
That'd honestly be cool.
Just
like have
Didn't the
someone
Romans
plan.
have something pretty good?
They did. They had a fairly effective sewage system. Yes, right. Extreme poverty has dropped violently, and I mean that in a good way, fairly recently. The word poor is a relative term. Think of poverty in Africa. Okay, I mean, how many of you are picturing a little boy, almost naked, huge belly because he's starving and flies are everywhere? African poverty. American poverty, my cell phone's old, right? And I'm not trying to mock, because obviously there are poor people in America, right? But there's a place to sleep. Yes, there are homeless people, but there are other things going on probably in a homeless situation than I really cannot afford my own house. There are other things probably in play. Okay? So the idea of poverty is very relative, and I'm trying to tell you that poverty today is nothing like poverty 1,000 years ago. Okay? We are freer than ever. This green is the level of democracy, and you can see that it's trending upward. People have never been freer. 1,000 years ago, democracy didn't even exist. No one lived in a democracy. There was the unquestioned absolute authority of the monarch who spoke on behalf of God or Allah or whatever, right? People weren't free. You didn't have rights. There were no rights 1,000 years ago.
That's just the Hebrew word for God.
Yes, I know that. Yes,
Why do you
absolutely.
say or Allah?
Using the names. Okay? I could call you Jack or John. Of course, I mean the same thing. And I agree with you. And by the way, Jack, okay, so Jack just said Allah is God, and that's fine. There are some people who don't believe that the Muslims worship their God, and we Christians worship our God, and our God exists and their God doesn't. So they're not worshiping anything. You are voicing a different opinion. Okay. Education and literacy are sort of the same thing. We've never had more people educated. 1,000 years ago, why read? What do you need to read for? You're just going to shovel. Who cares if you can read? There are no instructions. Grab that shovel and shovel. But today you need to learn how to read, right? And, literacy is never higher than it's been. Vaccination. You'll notice that pink is people died and blue is they're not dying anymore. And you'll notice that there really wasn't any sort of vaccination until fairly recently. There were no vaccinations 1,000 years ago. No one was given a tetanus shot. People did not understand that maybe you should wash your hands after going number 2. What? What for? The number one treatment during the American Revolutionary War, if you had a headache, was to drill a hole in your head and let the bad blood out. That's how Washington died. George Washington died because he had a headache one day. And lay down. And he bled to death. Nice. Okay. We've never been safer from killer vaccines. What's sort of interesting is that lately you hear a little bit of kickback, the belief that some people have that vaccines actually cause things like autism and stuff like that, the anti-vaccine group. And this is America, and they're free to express their opinion. You cannot have an opinion that the world is flat.
It is.
You can't have that opinion.
Sorry.
You're just wrong.
Same with how water's not
You're just
wet.
wrong. Okay? People have this misunderstanding about what an opinion is. Well, I think the world's flat. No. That's not your opinion. You're just wrong. Now you can say, well, I think Trump's greatest. Okay, that's an opinion. Or I think he's the worst. That's an opinion. Let's keep going with this. You cannot have an opinion that Barack Obama was born in Africa. No, he either was or he wasn't. It is not a matter of opinion. Well, I think he was. No. Okay. Last slide, and then we'll move on. Just a couple more trends that are part of American society. And I fully realize that a topic like gay marriage, there are people in this room that think that's wrong. Great. This is America. Think what you want. Fine. But I am telling you that it is increasingly acceptable and legal. Legal everywhere in the U.S. The United States Supreme Court a couple years ago legalized gay marriage. Okay. The question that I'll have for you based on this chart, so this is the western part of the United States, and their opinion about gay marriage. Should be valid, should not be valid. So dark green is, it's fine. Light green is, it's not fine. So the West, the Midwest, that's us. So you'll see the South, fine, not fine. And the East, fine, not fine. Okay. I want you to conclude, this is your ability to read a chart. Okay. Which region of the country is the most accepting of gay marriage? Now, if you can't read these numbers, I'll read them for you. This says 51 and this says 43. This says 35 and this says 61. This says 30 and this says 69. And this says 51 and that says 45. Okay? I want you to tell me, just keep it in your mind and let's see if you're right. If you had to pick one region of the country that is the most accepting of gay marriage, which one would it be? Don't say anything out loud. Okay. When you have your answer, just give me a thumbs up. You have the answer. How many of you are stuck? Nobody's stuck. Oh. How many of you think, well, you can't pick one? Is anyone of that opinion? You can't pick one. Okay. You're missing part of the evidence, though. Yes, you can pick one. Yes, you can pick one. Yes, you can pick one. One of these can be considered the most accepting. Do you understand? Do you understand? Okay. And would anyone like to take a shot? Which region?
West.
You think the West?
Yep.
Why?
Because when I think about like California and stuff, I think of more like.
Give me some tangible evidence.
Like people seem more like.
What's going on here? based on the information you're being given, prove to me that the West is the most accepting.
Well,
Before we go on, can I
I'm
just
not-
ask,
I'm not-
were
I'm
you
not.
just like going with it?
no.
Well, it sounds like
should
you were,
be-
which
The
is
should be
awesome.
valid says 51%.
Okay.
That's,
Doesn't the East also have 51%?
yeah, but when I think of like the East Coast,
You're close. You're close. Yes.
51% for the should be valid, but the should not be valid is less than all the other ones.
There it is. There's two pieces of evidence. Go ahead.
Can I draw something on the board?
Who am I to stop you?
All right.
We all know you are smarter than me.
All right.
By the way, I mean that.
Here's the West, okay, and here's the East. We know that 51%, so we'll just draw about half, that these people are okay with it. We know that in the East, 45%, so like up to here, are not okay with it, and like 43%, so a little bit lower. So this top little part up here, where they just decided not to vote, is unknown. So these people up here have the potential to be either side. You know, in the East, that more people voted, so they have less unknown. But in the West, all of the rest of the percents that are unknown could be
A larger unknown.
yeah, larger. Since there's a larger unknown, you could argue that these people, all of these people, could be not okay with it, and then the West would be less acceptable.
Fine. I'm not going to dispute anything. All of that is true, right? I'll just counter by saying we don't know. So based on what you know, based on what you know.
Exactly. You can't make a conclusion, is what I'm trying
Well,
to
you
say.
can based on what you know. You can make a conclusion that given what we know, there will always be the other. Okay. Some other trend here that I just want you to recognize is that more and more of you are living together without getting married. The conclusion is, well, let's just test this out. And I don't know, do any of you have older brothers or sisters where they're living with their significant other? They're not married, but they're just seeing how it works. And I'm going to give you this interesting statistic, which is fairly interesting. So I've got these people that are living together first and then they get married. And then these people who do not live together and they get married. Which one would you think would have the higher divorce rate? These people live together first and then they get married. So, right, these many people live together and then this many get married. So we're looking at this group right here. And then these people just get married. Which one would you expect would have the higher divorce rate? You'd think these people, right?
it's the other ones.
It's the other ones. They have a higher divorce rate.
Because they get sick of each other.
Maybe.
Before they
Maybe. I don't know, but it is sort of interesting. Okay, that's enough of that. You can put your notes away. Let's attack two more documents. So wherever you're, remember your landscaped note taking, 7 columns. We're gonna attack 2 more documents. Right. The undergrad. All right.
I gotta sit in your chair again. My computer.
You're gonna sit here.
Dead meat. All right.
Oh, sure. Anyone else need an extra? Sure. Yes. You need this? Yes. Okay. We have looked at 2 arguments so far. Both arguing that the words should be allowed. 1, because it does not violate the Constitution, and 2, because it doesn't force anyone to convert to any religious belief. Right? That's where we are so far. Okay? Let's look at the remaining 2 documents and let's just see what those people have to say. We're now looking at document 5. So you can kind of fill this out as we're going. Document 5.
We already did.
We already did 5. 8. Document 8. Yep, you're right. 8 and 10. Thank you. Who had document 8? You. Okay. Which document is document 8? 8. Who is the speaker of document 8? Michael Newdow. Who is Michael Newdow?
The founder of the First Amendment.
He is the founder of the First Amendment Church of True Science. He also, by the way, happens to be the father of the kid who went to the school in California who came home and said that they forced her to say the pledge, including the words under God. It's her dad. So, did you know that when Rosa Parks sat in that bus seat, she knew that she was breaking the law? She knew it. She did it anyway. Was she a criminal?
No, she's a hero.
She's a criminal. She broke the law. People who break the law are criminals. Let me ask the second, more important question. Was she justified in doing so? So you can break what you think is an unjustifiable law on purpose to see if that law can be thrown out, which is one of the unique things about living in America. One of the unique things about living in America is this. There's a law that exists and you think it's a stupid law, break it. Break it. Get the courts to rule on it. Because when the law is created, it's probably created by a legislative body, the House and Senate, signed by the president. The courts have no say until someone says, I broke this law, but it's a dumb law. She broke it on purpose. Anyone ever heard of a guy by the name of John Scopes? John Scopes. No one in here has heard of John Scopes. John Scopes was a biology teacher in Tennessee in 1925. Biology teacher in Tennessee in 1925 was a tough thing to be. You know why? Biology teacher in Tennessee. I've stumped you. Yes. Very good, right? I'm not questioning if some of you believe in the biblical version of how life on earth came to be. Great. But let's agree that that's not biology. That's religion, and that's fine, but it isn't biology. John Scopes taught biology. That was his subject. He taught this thing called biology, and in biology, there's this thing called evolution. It's a theory. He taught it. He broke the law on purpose because Tennessee law said you cannot teach evolution, and he did it anyway. He broke the law on purpose because he said it was a stupid law. That if I'm a biology teacher, I should be teaching biology. So he broke it on purpose. Michael Newdow knew that that school required students to say the pledge. And so he purposefully had his daughter enroll there, knowing that they would be suing the school. This is a rich tradition in America. That's what Martin Luther King did. Martin Luther King knew that marching was illegal in some of the towns that he did. He did it anyway. Breaking the law on purpose has a rich and long tradition in the U.S. Okay? You think there's a stupid law, break it. Now, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, admirable people, right? They're heroes. What if South Carolina tomorrow passed a law saying gay marriage is illegal? Now that violates American law, right? Why can't a state break a law on purpose? Because they think the law is stupid. How come, this is one of these ironies, how come when individuals break what we think is a stupid law, we say, wow, brave. But when a state does it, we say, you can't do that.
The only states that have broken laws have done it for slavery.
I think so.
What? Okay, give us an example.
Gay
that's
marriage.
not-
Kentucky passed a law saying that gay marriage is not allowed. How about the rash of states throughout the nation that have passed very restrictive abortion laws? By the way, you might agree with this, that restrict abortion. What was it? North Dakota just passed one that said you cannot have an abortion after 6 weeks. 6 weeks, right? Current U.S. law says that you can have an abortion without any sort of interference during the entire first and second trimester. That's 6 months. And then North Dakota says, 6 weeks. Violates American law. But they did it anyway. Now, how come we don't look at North Dakota and say, brave? I'm not saying there's an answer here. I'm just saying that's one of the interesting things. Wait till we get to race. Oh, fascinating topic. Okay, anyway. So what does Michael Newdow, those of you who read it, Michael Newdow, should the words be removed or not? Yes or no? Yes. Why? Why? Why should the words be removed? Why? Let's see. I will read it. It says, the First Amendment states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. As I understand it, this resulted from the framers' awareness of the persecution and animosity that inevitably accompanies state religions. With this in mind, they made the decision to ensure religious freedom by keeping the government out of that sensitive area. Personally, I think this is a good idea, and even if I did, it's one of the fundamental rules of our society. Next sentence is the key one. Thus, when I see our Pledge of Allegiance containing the words under God, I see a gross violation of one of our most foremost constitutional mandates. Why should the words be removed? Violates the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. The words violate the First Amendment. Document 8, Michael Newdow. He's the First Amendment, blah, 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 blah. Absolutely remove those words. All I did was put the first ... last word of the quote.
Didn't the Claremont Institute argue like the exact opposite?
Yes. Will you hold on to that thought for just a second? I'm going to pick on Jack here in a minute. But, okay. So, violates the First Amendment. So let's, everyone have this written. I want us to all think about the logic of this paper as it's being constructed. Jack, so far I have two arguments for why the word should be left alone. It doesn't violate the First Amendment and it doesn't force religion on anybody. And now I have a counter argument that says, yes, it does violate the Constitution. Can you guess the argument of the next document we're going to write?
Yes, religion is being enforced.
Right? It's a logical, it's going to be a logical paper. Basically, it's your mom, your mom. You get it? Okay. Don't worry about the example yet. We'll worry about that later. Let's see if Jack's theory is right. Okay, he's arguing right now that the next document that we are encountering, document 10, will probably argue that saying the words under God forces religion upon an unwilling audience. Yes, it does. Okay. Let's see if he's right. Who had document 10? Who had document 10? You? Okay. Which document is document 10? Who's our speaker? It is the Humanist Society. Doesn't that sound lovely? A pro-human organization. I'm all for that. What is the credibility of the Humanist Society? Who are these people?
Nonprofit religious organization.
It is a nonprofit religious organization. That's kind of interesting. They are a religious organization, according to them. Okay. Let's go down to the second paragraph only, and I will read it, and then you tell me if Jack's theory is right. Jack's theory is that this will probably be arguing that there's some sort of forcing people to accept a certain religious point of view against their will. Let's see. The use of the current version of the pledge in public schools violates the court's coercion analysis. What's coercion? If I coerce you out that door, what have I just done? Forced you out the door. Coercion means forcing you. The current use of the pledge violates the court's coercion analysis. Reciting under God is a religious act. Children who theoretically have the right to opt out of reciting the pledge may not do so because of fear of exposure as outsiders, because they do not have the capacity to do so, or because they do not wish to appear unpatriotic to their teacher and their classmates. Is Jack right? Is Jack right? Is this argument being made saying that when you say the words under God during the pledge, you are being forced to do so? Yep, he's right. He's right. Okay, so we have document 10 from the Human Society. It's a nonprofit. Remove them. First and last word. And it's religious coercion. You're being forced. It's sort of an interesting argument. the force, it's just sort of interesting to think about. The force that's being exerted is not overt force. If you refuse to say the pledge, the teacher doesn't say, detention, detention. It's more subtle. It's the stares and the glares of your fellow students. It's the, I don't want to appear like I'm not a good American type of force. It's that peer pressure, right? I'm looking at 30 students who are teenagers. I'm sure none of you have ever given into any form of peer pressure. You've all said no when presented that beer, that cigarette, that vape, that jewel. By the way, if you are vaping, stop it. They are concluding that vaping is worse than smoking. Go back to the Marlboros. That's weird advice. I don't mean it. I don't smoke either, but man, vaping is bad, right? The US government just went to Juul, that company that's the most popular, and basically said, you are falsely advertising. And you will, I predict, boldly predict, you will see an end to those ridiculous commercials very soon. US government has basically ordered Juul to stop running those deceiving ads about how it's safer because there's no smoke. Stop it. I'm telling you, stop it. Okay, anyway, back to this. Any questions? You now have been exposed to, this class, by the way, ends at 10:35, so I still have you for 15 minutes. Some of you have conflict, great. You now have been exposed to 2 arguments for why the word should be removed and 2 arguments for why the word shouldn't be removed. And we will continue to think about this, okay? But for now, if you had to decide right now, do you think the word should be removed? What would your decision be? You don't need to say out loud, okay? But privately, right now, think, okay, if I were the dictator of Earth and what I said went, and I had the ability to sign my name on a piece of paper, removing the words under God from the pledge, would I sign it? Okay? That's what I'm asking you to come to the conclusion right now, okay? Because we are about to write the first paragraph of this piece of paper. So, computer's up. I need you to go retrieve a blank Google document. Hopefully you've already done this, but if you haven't, you should. Create a sociology folder. I'm assuming you did that already, but just in case you haven't, you should create a folder for each of your classes. It's a good idea. It's just a way of organizing your material. So you're going to google.com and you're signing in under your school ID. I guess you could sign in on your private Google account if you want to. Fine. I don't care. But I would create, as a matter of fact, it might even be smarter to not do it through your school, because when you graduate, the school account closes and you no longer have access to all that stuff. So maybe your private one's better. No, your school one's better. Go school. School is good. Pills are good. Pills are good. Dumb and Dumber, well, they're shoving the pills and the guy.
Yeah.
Pills are good. Okay. When next I speak to you, it is because you have a blank Google document awaiting your brilliance to start jamming a paper home. You also know, as of right now, whether or not you would remove the words under God. You could always change your mind. This is America. You have the right to change your mind. Ready? Okay. Let's type this bad boy. I am telling you, all we're going to do, my goal is to have the first paragraph written. Okay? We will be writing this paper in class together. So don't work out of this outside of class. You don't have to. Okay? But if you're choosing to write a paper for the September 20th summative, I want it written this way. Okay? This is the way I want it written. I acknowledge it's not the only way, but it is a way. Okay. As soon as you think you know what you're doing, go ahead. The first sentence is a question. Do you know what you're doing? Is there anyone right now who is not typing anything because you honestly don't know what to type? Like you don't know what you're doing, which is perfectly fine. But I can't help you unless you admit it. Charlotte, what are you typing?
Should under God be removed from the Pledge of Allegiance or not?
Don't add or not.
Okay.
Let's get that. Should the words under God be removed from the Pledge of Allegiance? Question mark. Saying or not is unnecessary. You add no knowledge when you add the words or not. You don't go to your husband on your wedding day and say, am I beautiful or not? You don't need to say or not, right? That's inherent in the question, but just asking, you don't need or not. It's unnecessary. We have 7 sentences left. 7 sentences left. 8 sentence first paragraph. And the second sentence goes to something like this. Some people think, and then you state the side you disagree with. And then you add for 2 reasons. The words for 2 reasons. Some people think the words should be removed for 2 reasons. Now, when I said, some of you are going to put the word not, and others aren't going to put anything. You understand? There are 2 options here. Some people think the words should be removed for 2 reasons. Or some people think the words should not be removed for 2 reasons. Your use of the word not depends on if you think the words should be removed. If you think the words should be removed, if you think the words should be removed, the word not should be in your second sentence. If you think the words should not be removed, the word not should not be in your second sentence. Good God, what a sentence that was. I said the word not 4 times in that one sentence. Have you ever thought about what word that if you said it again and again and again a number of times in a row would make perfect sense? Like, I think the word for can be said like 19 times in a row and it makes sense.
Really?
For, and like it makes sense because sometimes it's FOR and sometimes it's FOUR, or 2 to 2 to 2. This, right? If the score is 2 to 2, 2 to 2 to 2 people, right? 2 to 2 to 2 people, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. That's 5 times in a row I said the word 2. Thought I could be so full of useless information. What's up, Trey?
I need help signing up for the I was laughing.
Can you give me a few minutes, and then I'll be glad to help. Okay. You're welcome to stay. Right. Are we all clear? Do you have your second sentence written?
You don't list the 2 reasons. do you?
Not yet. But guess what you're doing in the next 2 sentences?
List.
All right. So Charlotte has correctly identified what you do in the next 2 sentences. The next 2 sentences, each gets its own sentence. You list the 2 reasons for the side you disagree with. And you start it like this. The first reason is, and then you say the first reason. Period. The second reason is, period. Or, first of all, comma, period. Second of all, comma, period. So have you not registered at all? Okay. So let's go back to it. Student. Fill that in. Code. HRBD. Again, make sure you're doing this right. If you think the word should be removed, then right now you are listing the reasons that other people think for why the word should not be removed. If you think the word should not be removed, then right now you are listing the two reasons for why some people think the words should be removed. You are listing the two arguments you disagree with. And the two arguments are, everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, right now I'm gonna talk to the population that thinks the word should be removed. If that's you, if you think the word should be removed, listen. You right now have 4 sentences that you've written, and they should go something like should be removed, right? Should be removed. Okay. Those of you who think the word should be removed, your 4 sentences should be something like this. Should the words under God be removed from the pledge? Some people think they should not be removed for 2 reasons. First of all, it doesn't force religion upon anyone, period. Second of all, it does not violate the Constitution. That's what yours should look like. Or the 2 reasons kind of switch around. If you think the words should not be removed, if you think the words should not be removed, then your first 4 sentences should go something like this. Should the words under God be removed? Some people think they should be removed for 2 reasons. First of all, it violates the Constitution. Second of all, it forces religion upon a captive audience. You're listing the arguments for the side you disagree with. There are 4 sentences left. If you think you know the next 3 sentences, go ahead. And if you want a clue, look at the previous 3 sentences and then flip the coin. Do you know what you're doing? If not, that's fine. No, don't say I yet. Nope, there's no I. Very good. That is saved for the last sentence. Okay. Sentence number 5 should be something like this. Others think, whatever it is that others think, which you happen to agree with, but I don't know that yet. Do not put your opinion in yet. That's the last sentence. Others think, blah, 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 for 2 reasons, period. First of all, second of all. Each gets its own sentence. Each reason gets its own sentence, period. When next time I talk to you, you will have completed 7 sentences, and you will be awaiting the final sentence. Please raise your hand if you need help. It's quite all right. Not for this. Let's stick. It's a great question. Can we go beyond the reasons that were covered in the documents? And for now, the answer is no.
So these are the two reasons that you agree with, right? Should be removed, okay, should be, right? So one reason is it doesn't violate the Constitution. And the second reason is it does not force religion upon them. Start the sentence.
You are writing a paragraph, so just start the next sentence at the end of the last sentence. Don't make this a list where the sentence begins at the left-hand margin every time. This is one paragraph. Okay. We have one goal left, and that's the final sentence. Okay? Your final sentence is your thesis. Your thesis. Okay? This is finally where I get to see what you think, which I do not know until now. Okay? And it goes something like this. While it appears, blah, 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 comma, in truth, blah, 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 period. Let me say that again. While it appears, blah, 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 comma, in truth, blah, 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 period. Let me give you an example. While it appears the Vikings are the better team, comma, in truth, the Packers are the better team because they win Super Bowls and have an outdoor stadium. Period. See what I did there? While it appears that A is true, comma, B is actually true because of these reasons. So, for example, while it appears the words under God force religion and violate the Constitution, comma, in truth, they should be left alone because they do not force religion and they do not violate the Constitution, period. Or the other way around. While it appears that the words under God do not violate the Constitution and do not force religion upon anyone, comma, in truth, the words should be removed because they violate the First Amendment and they force religion upon a captive audience, period. Make sure next time you have class, this is a document that you can easily retrieve. So maybe change the name of it to something. Sociology paper number 1 or something like that. Under God paper, something like that. This class is over. Great job today. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I miss you already.